Hello everyone, this is Enea here, and in today's tutorial I'll teach you how to create this Christmas pattern in Affinity Designer. For this pattern we first are going to need a snowflake. A few weeks ago I recorded a tutorial on how to create a snowflake in Affinity Designer. So if you have completed this tutorial, you can use this one. Otherwise you can use an already pre-made snowflake from Pixabay or freepik.com. So now back to the pattern. As I explained in my previous tutorials, in order to create a pattern for a pattern fill, we first need to identify the tile that repeats itself throughout the composition. In this particular pattern, I identified the following tile that I highlighted with a black rectangle. The key to identifying a tile in a pattern is that it must start at the top, where it ends at the bottom, and it must start on the left, where it ends on the right. So this is what we are going to seek to create. And this is what the tile will look like after we have created and exported it. Alright, so to get started, we go to File New, and we create a new composition. We give it 1000 by 1000 pixels in dimensions, and then we go to the Margin tab, and we uncheck Include Margin, and we click on Create, and then we make sure that Snapping, Snap to Grid, and Snap to Object Bounding Boxes are enabled, and we can uncheck Snap to Spread, because it might cause hindrance on this particular pattern. And then we're going to set up the grid, so we go to View, Grid and Axis. We check on Show Grid to make it visible. We make sure that the grid line's color is set to black. And then we go to the Advanced tab. As a grid type, we select Oblique, which is a grid made of square at a 45 degrees orientation. We are going to increase the spacing a bit to 100 pixels. And then we can close the Grid Manager. And then we're going to set the background color. We take the rectangle tool. We set the fill color to red. And the stroke to none. And then we create a rectangle all over the composition. And then we're going to bring in the snowflake. So we select all the elements. We press on Ctrl G to group them together. And then we press on Ctrl C to copy. And then Ctrl V to bring it into the composition. So first, we're going to set the stroke color to white. And we're going to set the stroke width to 1.5. And we're going to center the snowflake at the grid's intersection, like this. And then we're going to scale it down by holding Ctrl until it occupies about 4 grid units in space, like this. And then we're going to duplicate it. So overall, we are going to need 5 snowflakes. So we press on Ctrl J to duplicate it. And we bring it to the top right, like this. So we move it by 4 grid units to the top right until it is located at the intersection of the grid, like this. So 4 grid units in distance. And then we press on Ctrl J again to duplicate the snowflake in the middle. And then we bring it to the bottom right by 4 grid units until it snaps to the intersection of the grid. And then we select both snowflakes to the right. We press on Ctrl J to duplicate them. And then we bring them to the left while holding Shift. Until they snap to the intersection of the grid. Alright, so now we have all the snowflakes that we need. The next step is going to be to create the dashed lines. So we take the pen tool, we set the fill to none, and leave the stroke as it is. And then we create a line like this of 4 grid units in distance. And then to make it into a dashed line, here as a style, we select dash line style. And then to increase the spacing between the dashes, here we select the second value. And when we increase the value, that increases the spacing. I will set the value to 3. And also make sure that balance is selected for the dashes to be equally balanced throughout the line. So now we have our first dashed line. The next step is going to be to duplicate it. So we go here to enable transform origin. And we set the rotation center in the middle of the snowflake here. We press on enter to bring out the move duplicate panel. We check on duplicate. We set the number of copies to 3 and the rotation angle to 90 degrees. And then we click on OK. And then we're going to need one more dashed line that connect the snowflake in the middle to all the 4 other ones. So we take the pen tool again, and we draw a line like this between the 2 snowflakes here. And we make sure that its center lies on the grid. And then we set its rotation center in the middle of the composition. We press on enter to bring out the move duplicate panel. We check on previous settings to apply the same duplication settings as for the previous line. And also we check on duplicate, and we click on OK. Alright, so now we have all the elements that we need. Before we create the tile, we select all the elements. And then we go here to the color tab. And we're going to give it a bit of noise, around 50-60%. As you can see, adding the noise gives it this icy effect. Alright, so now the next step is going to be to delineate the tile. The tile is going to be located from the middle of this snowflake here to the middle of this snowflake here. And we're going to delineate it with the rectangle tool. So we take the rectangle tool. So make sure to press escape to unselect the background rectangle. And we set the fill and the stroke to none. And then we go ahead and we create a rectangle from the middle of this snowflake here to the middle of this snowflake here. And then we select it with the move tool. We make sure that it is positioned correctly. And then we're going to export its content. So we go to File, Export. We leave the file type as PNG. And as an area, we select Selection Area to export only what's within the rectangle. And we click on Export. Alright, so now we have exported the tile. Then we can use it to do a pattern fill. So we go to File, New, and we create a new composition. We're going to hide the grid because we are not going to need it anymore. And also we are going to reactivate Snap to Spread. And we take the rectangle tool, set the fill and the stroke to none. And then we go ahead and we draw a rectangle all over the composition. We select the rectangle. We take the vector float fill tool. We go to Set Bitmap Fill. And we select the tile that we just created. We click on the composition. And as you can see, this creates a pattern fill. And then we can adjust the pattern to make it bigger or smaller. Alright, so that was it for this tutorial. You learned how to create a Christmas pattern in Affinity Designer. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and learned something from it. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Affinity Designer tutorials in the future. And until then, see you next time. Bye!